The blood on the gravel wasn't what stopped Emma. It was the stillness. The giant German shepherd lay crumpled like something discarded, his chest barely lifting, one leg twisted at a sickening angle, bone catching the late autumn sun. Emma stood frozen, her backpack slipping from her shoulder, wind tugging at the hem of her sweater. The world went quiet, except for the thundering of her heart. She should have run. That's what her dad would have told her. That's what most people would have done. But Emma had learned long ago that sometimes the world doesn't send help. You have to become it. Her small hands trembled as she dropped to her knees beside the dog. His fur was caked in dried blood, his breath shallow. "It's okay," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes, though nothing was okay. Then, something miraculous, a weak thump of his tail. His eyes cracked open, amber and glazed with pain, but fixed on hers. In that flicker of connection, something deep and ancient pulsed between them. Not fear, not pity, recognition. She shed her jacket and laid it gently over his battered frame. "Stay with me," she murmured. She looked up and down the empty road. Nothing but silence. Then, "Help!" she screamed into the wind, voice barely louder than the breeze. Again, louder, and again, until her throat burned. From the curve of the hill, a dusty pickup rolled into view. Emma leapt up, waving frantically. The truck stopped. Mr. Peterson, grizzled, familiar, stepped out and froze at the sight. "Emma Wilson." "What?" His words caught when he saw the dog. Emma met his eyes with desperate conviction. "Please, he's dying." The hesitation in Mr. Peterson's weathered face gave way to something else. Resignation, maybe, or memory. "Your dad's gonna kill me," he muttered, already moving to help. Together, they slid her jacket beneath the shepherd, his body impossibly heavy. When they lifted him, the dog yelped, a sound that split Emma in half. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her hands stained with his blood. "We're going to save you." As the truck rumbled toward the veterinary clinic, Emma kept one hand gently pressed to the dog's side, as if her touch could anchor him to life. The Millfield Veterinary Clinic was minutes from closing when Mr. Peterson's tires squealed into the parking lot. Dr. Sarah Bennett had just locked the medication cabinet when her assistant called out, "Emergency." Outside, Emma stood beside the truck, her cheeks streaked with dirt and tears. Within moments, Max was on the exam table, the fluorescent lights above casting harsh clarity on the damage. Torn flank, shattered leg, deep gashes that oozed with every shallow breath. Machines beeped beside him as Dr. Bennett examined his wounds with a face carved from stone. Emma didn't blink. She didn't look away. "You can fix him, right?" Her voice was too young to carry such weight. Dr. Bennett crouched, meeting her eyes. "He's holding on. But surgeries like this, medication, recovery, it's expensive. Without an owner, sometimes the kindest thing is..." "No," Emma cut in, sharp and small all at once. "He fought to live. He wants to live." The vet looked back at the dog, then paused. Something glinted in the matted fur around his neck. Carefully, she parted the hair and pulled out a half-buried tag. Wiping it clean, her eyebrows rose. "K9 unit," she said softly. "His name's Max. He was a service dog." Emma's breath caught. "A hero." Dr. Bennett nodded. "Even heroes need someone to fight for them." Emma stood taller. "I have money saved. I'll sell paintings. I'll work here if I have to. I won't let him die." Behind her, Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. "We should call your father, Emma." She nodded, but her gaze stayed fixed on Max. "His name is Max," she whispered again, as if saying it could keep him tethered. "And I'm going to save him." Gravel sprayed the clinic wall as Robert Wilson's truck skidded into the lot. His boots hit the pavement before the engine cut. Emma, watching from the window, felt her stomach twist. "Emma Catherine Wilson," he said as he stormed through the door, voice tight with fear disguised as anger. "What have you done?" Before she could answer, Dr. Bennett intervened. "Your daughter found an injured canine, a retired service dog, badly hurt." "A stray?" Robert's eyes darted from the vet to Emma. "You dragged Mr. Peterson into this over a stray dog?" "He's not a stray," Emma whispered. "His name is Max. He saved people. Now he needs us." In the exam room, Max lay unconscious, hooked to tubes and monitors. Robert saw the size of the dog, the damage, and more importantly, the weight of his daughter's hope. Later that night, silence hung over their dinner like a fog. Emma pushed her food in circles. Margaret, her grandmother, watched the dance of tension between father and daughter. Emma broke first. "He needs surgery. I have money saved. I'll earn more." Robert rubbed his eyes. "The surgery is $4,000, Emma. I'll raise it. Please, Dad. I haven't asked for anything since Mom died. Not a party, not new shoes, nothing." He stood overwhelmed. "Dogs are dangerous," he said, voice sharp with old pain. "You know what happened to me when I was a boy." Emma met his gaze. "Max isn't dangerous. He's scared, just like—" She stopped herself, but the words were already between them. "Just like me." That night, Emma counted her savings again. $217.39. It felt both heavy and laughably small. Tears welled, not just for Max, but for the silence that had taken over her home since her mother's passing. A soft knock broke the quiet. Margaret entered, cardigan draped around her, moving slowly. "Your father loves you," she said gently, "but love and understanding aren't always the same thing." From her pocket, Margaret pulled an envelope. "My emergency savings. It's not much, $800. But maybe it's a start." "Grandma, I can't." "You're not taking it. I'm giving it. Because sometimes the right path isn't easy." The next morning, they stood in Principal Dawson's office. Emma, small but unshakable, proposed an emergency art fundraiser to save Max. "For a dog surgery?" he asked, surprised. "Not just any dog," she said, her voice steady. "He's a hero. He saved lives. Now he needs someone to save his." Margaret rested a hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. Dawson considered them both, then nodded. "I'll talk to Miss Jackson. But Emma, this might not raise enough. We have to try." By the end of that day, posters covered school hallways. Emma painted through lunch and recess, determined, tireless. Her story spread, first among classmates, then teachers, then neighbors. At the clinic, Max's condition remained fragile. His eyes brightened when he saw Emma. His tail thumped. Faint, but there. Dr. Bennett crouched beside her. "He remembers you." Emma reached through the kennel bars. Max stretched forward, licking her fingers with slow, deliberate effort. "We're going to get through this," she whispered. That night, while Margaret prepared dinner, Emma stared at her phone in awe. "Someone donated $500, she said. "It just says, 'For the hero and his guardian.'" Margaret smiled. A blessing. Robert stood in the kitchen, fresh from another double shift, dark circles under his eyes. "Principal Dawson called," he said flatly. Emma looked up from her sketches, bracing for anger. "He told me you've been skipping recess to paint. Said you've found purpose again." Emma stayed quiet, waiting. Robert sat across from her. "You really care about this dog?" She nodded. "He needs someone, Dad. Like we did, after Mom." He flinched at her words, but didn't look away. "I can't promise anything about Max, but I've asked to start my shift late Friday, so I can attend your fundraiser." It wasn't everything, but it was more than she'd had in a long time. Friday came with rare electricity. Millfield Elementary's gymnasium became a gallery. Rows of art hung from temporary panels, lights strung like stars overhead. Emma's work took center stage, watercolors that shimmered with emotion, a portrait of Max staring across a golden field, quiet and strong. Miss Jackson placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "You've inspired the others. Some of these kids never painted with purpose before." By 5 o'clock, the gym buzzed. Neighbors, parents, teachers, everyone came. Emma stood by her paintings, telling Max's story again and again. Some nodded politely, others paused, eyes lingering. Her first piece sold within minutes. Then came Jessica Parker from the local paper, notebook in hand. "Tell me about Max," she said. Emma recounted it all, finding him, fighting for him, why it mattered. When she spotted her father across the room, still in his hardware store uniform, but washed and proud, she smiled. Jessica raised an eyebrow. "You want the world to hear about Max?" Emma nodded. "Yes, I want everyone to know what he's survived." By night's end, they had raised over $1,700. Emma's hands shook as Principal Dawson announced the total. Robert leaned down. "You did good, Am. Mom would be proud." Before Emma could answer, the doors swung open and Dr. Bennett entered, urgency in her stride. "Emma," Dr. Bennett called, weaving through the crowd toward the Wilsons. Her coat hung loosely over scrubs, her eyes edged with concern. "What's wrong?" Robert asked, stepping protectively in front of his daughter. "Max developed a fever," the vet said. "We're running out of time. He needs surgery, soon." Emma's heart dropped. "But we're not there yet. We don't have enough." Dr. Bennett exhaled slowly. "That's why I came. Someone saw your story online. They called the clinic an hour ago." Emma blinked. "And?" "They've offered to pay the rest of the cost for Max's first surgery. They asked to remain anonymous. All they said was, 'We understand what it means to be given a second chance.'" Emma's breath caught. "He can have the surgery tomorrow?" Dr. Bennett nodded. "First thing." Without thinking, Emma wrapped her arms around her father's waist. For a second, he stood stunned. Then, slowly, his arms came around her. That night, at home, the Wilsons barely spoke. But the silence wasn't heavy. It was reverent, full of something new. The next morning, they returned to the clinic. Emma clutched a small stuffed toy for Max. Margaret came too, despite her aching joints, refusing to be left behind. "You can wait here, Doctor," Bennett offered. "It'll take several hours." "We'll stay," Emma said. And they did, through coffee deliveries from Principal Dawson, a card signed by classmates, even a visit from Mr. Peterson. Each arrival chipped away at Robert's cynicism. By afternoon, Dr. Bennett emerged, eyes tired but glowing. "He made it. The leg's repaired. The internal bleeding is under control. He's still groggy but stable." Emma didn't wait for permission. At Max's side, she rested her hand on his head. "I'm here," she whispered. "You're not alone anymore." Max's recovery began slow but steady. A week after surgery, Emma arrived to find him sitting upright in his kennel, tail thumping weakly. For the first time, joy bloomed in her chest, unchecked. "He's healing," Dr. Bennett confirmed, flipping through his chart. "No sign of infection. He's stronger every day." Emma turned to her father, hopeful. "Can he come home soon?" Robert hesitated. "We'll talk about that. As a family." Before they could say more, the clinic's front door chimed. Dr. Bennett returned minutes later with a sharply dressed couple, polished, artificial. "This is Mr. and Mrs. Taylor," she said evenly. "They'd like to speak with you. About Max." Emma stiffened. She didn't like how the man scanned the room like it belonged to him. "We saw the newspaper article," Mrs. Taylor began. "You've done something very kind. But that dog, he belongs to us." Emma stepped closer to the kennel. "Max is a German Shepherd. You said your dog's a Belgian Malinois." The man waved a hand. "People mix up breeds all the time. He's ours. Went missing 2 weeks ago." "Do you have proof?" Robert asked, his voice calm but cutting. Mrs. Taylor produced a phone photo, blurry, generic. "That's him, Rambo." As if in reply, Max let out a low growl. Not pain, warning. Robert's eyes narrowed. "Where did he work? What's his service background?" Mr. Taylor faltered. Search and rescue. County work. We bought him for security." Robert stepped forward. "Then you'll have vet records, certifications?" "We can provide those later." Dr. Bennett's tone cooled. "We'll need documentation before anything changes. And since the community helped fund his care, they may have questions too." The couple's smiles cracked. "We'll take this to the authorities," Mr. Taylor snapped. "Excellent," Dr. Bennett replied. "I've already contacted the K9 training center. They'd love to meet you." The Taylors left abruptly, tension thick in their wake. Emma exhaled, shaken. "They're lying," she whispered. Robert nodded, his face grim. "And we're going to find out why." The next morning, Emma woke to hushed voices downstairs. "I don't trust them," Robert whispered to Margaret. "They showed up right after the fundraiser went public. Could be after the money, or they're the ones who left Max in that ditch." Emma crept to the staircase, eavesdropping with her heart thudding. "What if they come back with fake papers?" she asked, stepping into the kitchen. Robert looked startled, but composed himself. "They won't take Max until we know the truth. I promise." Later that afternoon, the Wilsons returned to the clinic, only to find a small crowd had gathered. Parents, teachers, students, neighbors. Signs bobbed in the air. "Max stays in Millfield. We stand with Emma." Dr. Bennett met them at the door, eyes misty. "Word got out about the Taylors. The town's standing with you." Inside, Max's tail wagged furiously when he saw Emma. She opened the kennel and knelt. He rested his head on her lap, his body finally starting to trust the world again. "He really does know you," Robert said, kneeling beside her. "He knows I won't hurt him," she replied softly. A roar outside drew their attention. Luxury SUV, tinted windows, the Taylors. "They're back," Margaret said grimly. Robert stood. "I'll handle it." Outside, Mr. Taylor confronted the crowd. "This is private property." Jessica Parker stepped forward, press badge visible. "So is the clinic, and Dr. Bennett has the right to deny you entry. We're here for what's ours." Sheriff Davis pulled up just then, lights flashing. He stepped out calmly. "Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, I believe we spoke this morning about documentation." Mrs. Taylor handed over a folder with a smug smile. The sheriff scanned it slowly, then looked up. "There's a problem. The serial number on this certificate doesn't match any records at the K9 training center. And the vet listed? Never heard of you." The smugness melted, murmurs spread. "And," he added, "the K9 center confirmed Max, a real German Shepherd, not a Malinois, disappeared 6 months ago, injured during a training drill, never arrived for care." "You stole him," Robert said, realization hitting. "You abandoned him when something went wrong." "You can't prove," Mr. Taylor began. Jessica stepped forward, phone recording. "I've been researching your company. There are complaints, fraudulent credentials, improper training." Sheriff Davis nodded. "I think we'll continue this discussion at the station." As deputies led the Taylors away, Robert turned to Emma. "That dog," he said loud enough for all to hear, "is part of our family now. Emma stared at him, stunned. Then she threw her arms around him and held tight. Inside the clinic, the crowd erupted in applause as the patrol car carrying the Taylors rolled away. Emma knelt beside Max again, brushing her hand along his neck, whispering words only he needed to hear. "You're safe now," she said. "They can't hurt you anymore." Dr. Bennett joined them, her voice soft. "It's a relief, but Max's journey isn't over. He'll need more surgeries, therapy, and training. This kind of trauma, it doesn't vanish." Before Emma could reply, Robert stepped forward. "Whatever it takes, we'll see it through." Both Emma and Dr. Bennett looked at him in surprise. That night, the Wilsons gathered around the kitchen table, still processing the whirlwind. Margaret read aloud from Jessica Parker's latest article, one already generating waves of support and donations. "The funds passed $10,000, she said, tapping her tablet. "We've got enough for Max's care. People are still donating." Robert nodded. "Then it's time we talk about what's next." Emma tensed. "Max will need a home," Robert continued. "One that's stable, safe, somewhere he can heal properly." "Please, Dad," Emma whispered. He raised a hand, asking for silence. "I spent 2 years being afraid. Of change, of feeling anything again. But watching you fight for Max, it made me realize something." Emma barely breathed. "I've been holding us both back, and I can't anymore." He turned toward her, his voice low but steady. "I'm scared of dogs, I won't lie, but I'm more scared of missing this second chance." Emma's eyes flooded. "So, he can come home?" Robert smiled, tears threatening to betray his composure. "Yes, but there will be rules, training, boundaries. We'll learn together." Margaret, quiet all this time, finally spoke. "This was never just about saving a dog," she said. "It was about healing a family." Robert opened a folder Sheriff Davis had dropped off, Max's original service file. Photos of a younger, proud dog in uniform, notes from trainers, medical evaluations, awards. Emma leaned over the table, fingers tracing one of the images. "He found a lost child in a blizzard," she whispered, "and survivors after that building collapse. He was one of the best," Robert said quietly, "and now he's ours." Emma hugged the file to her chest. "He's not just a hero. He's part of us." As night fell, something unspoken shifted in their small house at the edge of town. It had long held the silence of loss, but now something new crept in. Lightness, anticipation, a home no longer just enduring, but opening again. 3 weeks later, snow dusted Millfield's rooftops. Margaret stood at the window, watching the flakes fall, a shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders. Her arthritis had worsened with the cold, slowing her movements, deepening her fatigue. Emma dropped her backpack near the door. "Did you take your medicine?" she asked, scanning her grandmother's face with concern, far too old for 8 years. Margaret smiled. "Yes, dear, I did. How was school?" "Better. Ms. Jackson said my new paintings have more emotion, and Lily Henderson wants to visit Max." Margaret raised a brow. "The same Lily who called you weird?" Emma shrugged. "Her dog died last summer. I said maybe after Max comes home." That name, Max, carried weight now. Not just a dog, a catalyst. His healing had gone well. The leg, though slightly crooked, held his weight. The clinic, once on the brink of closing, had received so many donations. Dr. Bennett was now partnering with a larger practice to stay open. At 4 p.m., Robert would bring Max home. The house was ready, gates installed, rugs down, food prepared. Even a hand-built ramp by the back steps, crafted by Robert himself. 2 more hours. Emma could hardly sit still. Margaret reached for her teacup, but her hand trembled. The cup clattered against the saucer. "Grandma?" Emma rushed to her side. "I'm fine," Margaret said, easing into a chair. "Just tired." But Emma watched her closely, worry flickering beneath the excitement. Something wasn't right. By 3:30, Robert called from the clinic. "Doctor, Bennett wants to go over Max's care plan one more time. We might be a little late," he said. "That's okay," Emma replied, casting a glance at the sofa where Margaret now rested beneath a blanket. "Grandma's just sleeping." "Is she all right?" Robert asked, tension creeping into his voice. "I think so. Just tired," Emma said, though uncertainty churned in her chest. By 5 o'clock, the shadows in the house had lengthened, and Margaret still hadn't stirred. Emma gently shook her shoulder. "Grandma?" she whispered. No response. Margaret's breathing had become ragged, shallow. Panic gripped Emma's throat. She dialed her dad. No answer. Then she called the clinic directly. "Millfield Veterinary Clinic," came Dr. Bennett's calm voice. "It's Emma. I can't wake Grandma. Her breathing. It's not right." There was no hesitation. "Your dad just left with Max," Dr. Bennett said. "I'll call 911 and meet you there. Stay with her, Emma. You're not alone." Sirens arrived before the fear could swallow her whole. Paramedics entered quickly, and Emma watched, hands clenched, as they tended to Margaret. A neighbor, Mrs. Abernathy, came to sit with Emma, holding her hand until Robert burst through the door, Max's leash in one hand, terror written across his face. He knelt at Emma's side. "Is she?" "She's stable," a medic said gently. "We're taking her in for tests. It was good your daughter acted fast." Robert pulled Emma into his chest, arms wrapping around her, and Max pressing close, as if sensing the storm inside the little girl who had saved him. That night, the house felt too big, too quiet. But Max lay curled beside Emma's bed, head resting near her pillow. "You're home now," she whispered, tears sliding silently onto the sheets. "No more pain, no more being left behind." His tail thumped softly, not loud, but steady. He was listening. In the days that followed, Margaret remained in the hospital for observation. Her body, worn and weathered, needed rest. But her spirit, they were told, was strong. Emma visited every afternoon after school, bringing drawings and stories about Max's adjustment to their home. How he learned to navigate the house with the ramp. How he perked up at the sound of the front door. How he still flinched at sudden noises, but slept soundly at the foot of her bed. "I think he misses you," Emma whispered one day, placing a sketch in Margaret's hands, a drawing of the three of them on the porch, Max at their feet, and stars overhead. On the day Margaret returned home, the town gathered once more. This time, it wasn't a fundraiser or a protest. It was quieter, warmer, a simple welcome back. Max stood by Emma's side, a bandana around his neck, and a new calm in his eyes. He moved slowly, but with purpose. He was no longer a broken animal clinging to survival. He was a part of something. That evening, as snow drifted past the windows, the Wilsons sat around the dinner table. For the first time in years, laughter returned. Not loud, but real. Robert watched Emma feed Max a sliver of leftover roast. "He's spoiled," he said with mock sternness. "He's family," Emma replied without missing a beat. Later, Emma and Max curled up together near the fireplace. She traced a finger along the edge of his ear. "You're safe now, and so are we." Max closed his eyes, breathing deep and even. No more whimpers in the night, no more flinches, just peace. Outside, the cold pressed against the windows, but inside, the little house at the edge of Millfield glowed with something more powerful than warmth. It glowed with healing and hope.